Check. 1. Okay, check, check.
Das muss natürlich so sein. Hello and welcome to the Tuesday afternoon. Guten Morgen, Mittag, Abend, so wie es hier auch an der Tafel steht. The talk will be held by Tim, and you can ask questions on d120.de/questions or in the YouTube chat where Philip will moderate them and at the end of the talk probably ask the questions to Tim. And then he will try to answer them as best as he can. Thank you, Tim.
So, after solving some small technical issues, welcome again for several of you. Welcome the first time in the last 2 days for some of you. We're going to wait a bit. So, your possibility to ask questions live. And what we're going to do, I'm presenting some informations about the closure of previous degree programs in our department, specifically the IT security program held in German, IT Sicherheit. And we'll slightly introduce the new program IT security, but it's a general talk about the closure of study programs and follow-up study programs. I will first of all provide a short overview, and afterwards we have a lot of time for QA. So therefore, if you have any questions, also from the lecture hall as well, just raise your hands. I'll try to answer questions on the fly if applicable, otherwise later on. Let's directly start. So first of all, my name is Tim Neubacher. I'm the person responsible for talks. No, I'm not. I'm for example, responsible for master's admissions, at least partly in our department, student advisor master's, master's transfer, and so on. So therefore, I'm the right person to provide this talk for the department. And you can reach out to me, for example, via the email address beratung@informatik if you have further questions later on as well. But please note that it might take some time to receive an answer. Sorry about that. What we're going to do, I will slightly provide the timetable for the closure of our degree programs. I will explain some effects on our already enrolled students. Afterwards, some explanations about potential follow-up programs, or probably best suitable follow-up degree programs. I will then present the overview of the new IT security program starting in the next winter semester and how to gather further advice and counseling regarding the closure or introduction of study programs. Okay, let's start. The master's program, Internet and Web-based Systems, Internet und Webbasierte Systeme, was already closed at the end of the summer semester 2022. The study programs, Distributed Software System and Autonomous Systems and Visual Computing, were closed by the end of the summer 2023. The study program, MSc IT Security or actually IT Sicherheit, will be closed by end of this summer semester. From the date of the closure, no new enrollment in the degree programs will be possible, only re-registration. Wieder, also Rückmeldung, right? This is possible up to some point, I will explain later or shortly, but new enrollments are not possible after the closure of a study program anymore. What does that mean? Well, you do have the regular study period plus a currency time of 2 semesters for your re-enrollments. And as we closed our study programs at different times, students already enrolled in these programs have different last semesters where they can re-enroll in their study programs. In the Master of Internet and Web-based Systems, you can only re-register until winter semester 2024-25. So already the next winter semester is the last to be enrolled in the study program. For the programs Distributed Software Systems, Autonomous Systems, and Visual Computing, you can re-register the last time in the winter semester 2025-26. And in IT Sicherheit, you can re-register the last time in the winter semester 2026-27. We will provide the slides on our websites as well in the Moodle course, so therefore you can look up the last semester where you can actually re-enroll. After the semester specified on the slide, students enrolled in these degree programs will be exmatriculated. No exception, right? So you have to finish your study program until the last possible re-registering semester. The modules offered gradually expire with a standard period of studies. And examinations will be offered up to 2 semesters after the modules have expired. What does that mean? That's actually not holding true for our study programs because we mainly don't have any mandatory courses in the master's programs. And as the electives are ongoing for other programs, they will of course be offered. So therefore only in rare exceptions in other study programs, not in our department, modules would be stopped actually at some point if they are scheduled at a specific given semester, for example, during the studies. That's not given. Anyhow, you could therefore even enroll in a new module in the last 1 or 2 semesters, but you will still be kicked out of the study program after the currency time is done. So therefore you probably don't have the 3 attempts topmost for the exams at the end. That's the biggest drawback you actually have when taking a module or an exam too late in the study programs. If you have any questions on one of the slides, just raise your hands, right? I try to answer the questions on the fly as well. So okay, let's just assume you have it was not possible for you to finalize your study program in due time, or probably you want to switch earlier to another program. In that case, we do have some recommendations based on how many credits in general fit in the best way possible in the follow-up program, right? Essentially, it's an individual thing to do, so it really differs between the students depending on what they have taken as courses. But in general, if you follow, let's say, average program in the study programs, we recommend for the students in the Internet Web-based systems, for example, to switch to the German-taught Master Informatik. Almost all of the courses conducted in Internet Web-based systems can be transferred to the Master Informatik program. Still, you may have to conduct a few extra credits depending on the new structure of the new study program, right? But at least you won't lose any credits, actually. So, for the Distributed Software Systems program, it's a bit more complicated. We recommend to switch into the English-taught Computer Science program with a specialization, but none of the specialization is actually 100% matching the study program. So depending on the courses you've actually taken, there will be a bit of loss of credits conducted so far. A better way would be to switch to the German-taught Master Informatik, but of course you need to prove of German language skills then. Wenn nur die Abschlussarbeit fehlt am Ende. What's possible to register in the last semester and probably submit in the semester after, but it's definitely not possible to register for the thesis after it is completely stopped, because then you're not enrolled anymore in the study program. And so technically and naturally and formally you can't register for thesis then anymore. But if the submission deadline reaches into the follow-up semester, there will most likely be solutions we have to take care of anyways. Right. But afterwards, not possible anymore. Yeah. Right, so if you fail then, no second attempt for the master thesis. So that's all coming down to take your courses as early as possible and try to finish it as early as possible. Otherwise, you will lose attempts for repeat exams or the second attempt for the master thesis, for example. If so, you have to switch to another program, losing a few credits, and then you can still finalize one of our degrees. But it might take you a bit more time then, right? Okay. For the students in the Autonomous Systems program, we highly recommend to switch into the new study program, Autonomous Systems and Robotics. Why? Because it's essentially the same. It just changed the name, and therefore it's a new study program. If you request the transfer of credit for the same, please make sure that everything that can be related to the mandatory electives is switched to the mandatory electives, because that's the only boundary in the new program. A minimum of credits in the mandatory electives, non-minimum credits defined for the sheer elective areas. And it's actually the elective or the mandatory elective areas are subsets of the elective areas. Same names, right? One is mandatory elective, the other is elective. The mandatory electives are subsets. So therefore, if you switch to the new study program, make sure that everything that suits into the mandatory electives is adjusted there to cover all the minimum rules of the different areas, first of all, right? Besides, these two programs are very, very close by. You shouldn't lose that much credits, probably 1 or 2 courses you have to take extra as the Studium Generale, for example. For students in the Visual Computing study program, we recommend to switch to the German taught Master Informatik program or the Computer Science program with a specialization in visual computing, which is very close by to the previous study program, but you need approval of English language then. It's an English taught program. So if you have that, it might be the closest study program to switch to. And for the students in the MSc IT Sicherheit, IT Security, recommend changing to the English taught IT Security program in winter, but you need a proof of English for the same, or to the German taught Master Informatik program. The IT Security program, I will provide a few informations in a sec, is also quite close to the previous or the currently running study program as well. Any questions on that already? Okay. I apparently created self-explanatory slides. A valid language certificate on C1 level. And I'm recorded and streamed, and therefore I can't give any other answer. All right. No, essentially, there's a list. If you just Google Äquivalenzen, SPZ, TU Darmstadt. It's a language facility of TU Darmstadt. You will find an equivalence list, the PDFs, enlisting all the possibilities to officially provide a proof of language skills on the respective level, and it has to be C1. The question is whether a language certificate doesn't have to be outdated, let's say, if you want to go abroad, for example. No. It has to be a valid proof. If there's no lease on it itself, we will still accept after 5 or 10 years. For example, in the German Matura, in the Abitur, if you have had an English Leistungskurs and in the written exam, you scored 8 points or more, it's equivalent to C1. And this can't outdate, for example, right? For specific language certificates or specific circumstances, you most likely have to get in touch with us via email or in my consultation hours anyways. So probably just drop by regarding, for example, 2-year leases for TOEFL, IELTS or something, right? Okay. Okay, next question. Yeah, as long as it states that you roughly have C1, it's fine for our department. That relates to the border of B2, C1 and a CEFR level, actually. And from our point of view, partly C1 is actually exceeding the C1 level. It differs a bit across universities in Germany and so on. But from our point of view, that's fair enough. Right? Right.
Sorry. Online question, is there any benefit to switch away from visual computing if someone predicts to finish before the winter semester 25-26 anyways?
Okay, I assume that with the microphone it's recorded, right? Okay, perfect. No, I mean, if you can finish your current study program in due time, just stay enrolled and finish your study program. Why should you change then, right? So there's definitely no benefit. It would be a drawback because you might lose some credits conducted. So in any case, if you're quite sure or totally sure that you can finish the study program in the given time frame, just do. Right? The only difference might be to switch to a program with a more generic name, for example. But on the other hand, you've chosen, in this scenario, you've chosen visual computing for some reason. So it probably doesn't make sense to switch to a computer science program with a more generic name, right? But in general, no. No recommendation, not a good idea probably even. Right? Other questions?
Another one, sorry.
Yeah.
Because, or on the topic of the language requirement, the requirement is C1 level English.
For English taught programs and C1 level German for German taught programs.
Okay, sure. For the IT security master, is an Abiturzeugnis with B2 C1 proficiency sufficient?
That was exactly the question we answered like a minute ago. From our point of view, B2/C1 or partly C1 is fair enough. All right. Okay. The question was specifically on the change of autonomous systems to autonomous systems robotics, but in general, to another study program, the follow-up study program later on, and there exist some modules or courses in the new program, but not exist in the old one. Is it somehow possible to take these modules already and still get them accepted in the new program? Yes, if you let us know in advance. It's a bit strange. That actually shouldn't happen between these study programs. Anyhow, it happens in other combinations a lot, actually. So therefore, we are a really nice department. So if you want to take some courses you can't select in a regular way by now, want to switch to a program, let us know in the semester directly before you switch and take up the new study program. And let us know about the combination, register them as additional courses, and after switching to a new program, let us know, and then we will still transfer them into the regular areas. But only if it's not selectable in any other good way. That's just to help our students in preparation of switching study programs and whatsoever, because otherwise it would actually not be that legal to transfer additional courses back into counting areas, right? But if there's no other option, of course, let us know the list of modules, courses you want to take, and then get back to us in the semester you're enrolled in. Beratung at Informatik, for example, or Studienbüro, or I don't know, probably Beratung. All right. Mm-hmm. We are a very polite and friendly department. Enough said for language certificates now. If you have specific questions, just drop by. Okay? Okay. Let's proceed. IT security program. Why is our recommendation to switch from IT Sicherheit to IT security? Well, because essentially it's almost the same. But there are some changes. I'm summarizing them in the next slides. But as you can see, probably the most important one, there are no mandatory courses anymore. So all of you who struggled with probably one of them, that might be a good chance to get around. Essentially, and what you can also see in the tabular overview, the names have changed their names slightly, and the credits have changed. So for example, if you studied IT Sicherheit so far and conducted 42 credits in the selected complementary topics, yeah, that might cause some problem. On the other hand, you're enrolled in an IT security program, so why focus mainly on non-security related courses, right? In that case, I would highly recommend to switch to the German Master Informatik rather than the IT security program, probably. we changed the names as well, and they will be extended a bit. So no mandatory modules anymore. The courses, the modules are now included in the areas. Actually, so you can still take them. If you pass them, they will be transferred into the areas. One of the benefits, if you switch a study program and not a regulation, you can decide on your own for the electives which courses you want to get transferred. So you could leave out failed courses and badly passed ones, for example, to improve your overall grading and to enhance the situation with the removal of open modules so far. So no mandatory modules included in the areas. There is a small Studium Generale area, so you can at least conduct one language course, better than nothing, but that's essentially it, or if you're interested in something else from any department. The areas have been slightly expanded. For example, the introduction to quantum computing, which was previously given in a selected complementary topics area, is now included in the cryptography and foundations area. One of the ideas was to make the areas a bit more stable, right, over time, and to extend the topics a bit in hindsight of the more ongoing courses. An introduction to quantum computing might be really helpful for a quantum cryptography course, for example, so it's a foundation of more ongoing courses. That's the whole idea. So they will be expanded over time as well, and there will be some new modules popping up. Some of the selected complementary topics by now are now sorted into the other areas. The complementary topics area is definitely way smaller in size. So therefore make sure how many credits you have passed in this area so far before you switch and decide that finally. And fewer credits are required in the Studienbegleiten and Leistung area, which is actually something we can't translate at all in a good way to English. Not at all. If anyone has a really good idea to how to translate this specifically, let us know. I'm searching for good translation since probably 12 years. So it's where the seminars and labs are in, right? You don't have to conduct a minimum of 12, as by now. It's reduced to 9 because one lab, minimum 6 credits, one seminar, minimum 3 credits. You have to conduct one seminar, one lab again. That's essentially the same, but 9 credits minimum instead of 12. So if you're more into theory, for example, you could focus more on lectures and integrated lectures. That's essentially the overview of the IT security because everything else is the same. Any questions on the IT security program? Okay, the first one is just the selected complementary topics, or the complementary topics is not complete. Same as in the currently running study program. If you see something missing, let us know, and then we will add that most likely into the area, right? With the public key infrastructures, it was a bit different because the lecturer has left the university and was not clear at the point when we created the module handbooks whether this course is actually given again in the way. If public key infrastructure is given again, it will of course at some point be included. And to be fair, the module handbook is already outdated again. As I stated earlier in one of my talks, the last time we created the big bunch of module handbooks, 40 hours of work for me alone. By hand, in Word, copy-paste. We do have some people working for us by now. And wait, just a sec. And most likely, hopefully, in the nearest future, we will update the module handbooks each and every semester now. Right? Okay. But yeah, sure. If you miss something, let us know. We will check that, and if applicable, we will add that later on. Okay. Now. Okay, yes, good question. I will generalize the same. So the question was about public key infrastructures. If it's not offered, can it still be transferred? Yes, this holds true for each and every course. There's a difference between what you can select and what we are allowed to transfer. So every course previously given in one of the areas can be transferred in the study program in the same area, right? For the transfer of credit, it all comes down whether it contextually fits, not whether it's selectable in a regular way. So therefore, yes, such courses can be transferred, but probably it's not possible for fresh students to take the same course if it's not included in the area. Right, that's really important information, thanks. So therefore, if you have you can definitely assume or actually take into account everything you've taken in cryptography can be transferred into cryptography and foundations. Everything you've taken in software security can be transferred to the new area, including software security, and so on and so forth. Even though it's not included in the module handbook, nor probably selectable for other students. Makes it easier to calculate the loss of credits if you want to switch study programs. Any other questions so far? 1, 2. Shouldn't happen. The basic idea, there is at least one course in the current running IT Sicherheitsprogram, which is creating web startup with emphasis on IT security. There exists a similar course in the Master Computer Science, just creating web startup without a specific emphasis. Right? Very rare cases, sometimes, but probably 1 out of 1,000. So really, really few. Because the basic idea in our department is every course has to be offered in the generic basic programs, Bachelor and Master Computer Science, German taught, and they can additionally be offered in one of the specializations or specialized programs. So it shouldn't happen that often. There are very rare exceptions though, but really, probably 5 in total or something, right, for all study programs. So therefore it shouldn't happen that much. Right. Answer the question? Perfect. Next, here. Again. Yes. Right, exactly. That's the way to proceed. So the question was, in advance, taking courses in advance or switching the program, just let us know. We just have to make sure that you have get in touch with us and let us know in advance, right? So it's a no-brainer then. And we, of course, at least officially have to check whether it's really not possible for you to take the course in any good way, which we don't. Anyhow, we need the official contact. And the best way to proceed is just sending an email. I want to take the following courses, then register as additional courses. And after you switch the program, let us know. Then we can fix it. Right. All right. Something I don't have on my slides, actually. But how to technically proceed if you decide to switch the programs or regulations? Well, a switch of regulations is easy. You stay in the same program, right? You just have to submit the request of switching the study regulation via our examination office. Sheer internal process. The big difference is that everything that suits into the new regulation has to be transferred legally. If you switch a study program, as I mentioned earlier, it's your decision as long as it's an elective course in the new study program, whether you want to transfer it into your new program or not. On the other hand, you have to do an online application in Toucan. I'm really sorry about that. Some of you have attended the introduction to Toucan earlier. I'd say bring a book and some coffee, and then do the online application. Make sure that you meet the deadlines. It takes ages to reload and so on, so Toucan is definitely not the fastest tool available. It's easier compared to the external application the first time. Definitely, you don't have to submit any documents anymore. Besides, if you did a German Matura and you want to switch to an English program, we additionally to the form you get out of the online application then, by printing the online application, which doesn't print the online application, but just creates the PDF I need for your switching to study program, we need the language certificate as well, but only for the German entrance qualifications, Abitur. For all international students with an international entrance qualification, the language certificates are checked by the International Admission Office. Every clarity destroyed so far? Perfect. So therefore, again, if you want to switch a study program, do the online application in time. For the English taught programs, the application period is June 1st till July 15th. For the German programs, it's June 1st till mid of September for the winter term, for example. So different application periods. At the end of your application, click on Print Application, take the PDF, send it to Beratung at Informatik or Application at Informatik. That's the better email address for this reason, including potentially language certificate required. And that's essentially it. At some point, we will then finalize the forms, provide them back to the International Admission Office or the Studierendenservice, and then again, after some point, you will receive your new student ID card. That's essentially it, and I'm still working on the documents for the summer semester. So it might take a bit, but we are optimizing our process at the moment. Any other questions on that? They will just forward, if you send the form to the Studienbüro, they will just forward it to Beratung at or Application at. Then, does your surname start with a V? Okay, then wait a bit after this talk, and then I can check whether I already finalized the form in your case. Okay? All right. Okay. Not really complicated, not much to understand, to be honest, but you most likely will have some more detailed questions, like, for example, what about this specific course? Can this be transferred to the main program or whatsoever? That's probably the most often question I hear at the moment. So, how to gather more advice and counseling? There's a Moodle course for new programs and regulations. You can just have a look, see all the detailed information whatsoever. Of course, the website of the Department of Computer Science with the study regulations and whatsoever is already existing. Yes? Yeah, okay. The question was whether you can be enrolled in, for example, IT Sicherheit and IT Security. Yes, different study programs. You can also be enrolled in autonomous systems and autonomous systems in robotics. The good question here is, why? I mean, no benefit at all, but yes, or to say it with the words of the central facility we asked exactly this question to, we highly fear we can't hinder them. But you have no benefit if you have 2 degrees with essentially the same content and essentially the same name. So it doesn't make sense, but yes, formally, technically, and legally, it's possible. Don't. Just don't. Okay. Any other strange ideas? Thank you, Sasha. All right. There is a website for the closure of our degree programs, which is always under construction. I'm actually not really sure whether it's still updated. It seemed to be quite updated when I had a look yesterday. But hey, I'm not responsible, so I don't know. But you will find more information there as well, at least for internet web-based systems, and I think probably not IT Sicherheit, but the other ones definitely. And of course, just either drop by in one of my open consultation hours, Tuesdays and Wednesdays between 10 and 12, send an email. If you can't make it in my consultation hours, send an email asking for an appointment. Just keep on asking me outside if I have a cigarette or whatever. Everything's fine, don't hesitate, just ask me, okay? And now, already, thanks for your attention. And are there further questions? There's a question from online.
Yes. What happens if you try to switch your masters, but you don't get accepted, or your application doesn't get accepted? Will you be exmatriculated, or will you just stay in the old program?
Okay. Depends. If you request a switch of study programs before the study program is completely closed, inclusion the currency time, and you already paid the fees, then you would definitely just be enrolled in the same study program again afterwards, if you get rejected. An interesting question is, why should you be rejected? the admission criteria are essentially the same as before. So actually in autonomous systems and robotics, it's a bit easier to get in by now. So I can't imagine a situation besides missing language certificates where an applicant, an internal one, would be rejected actually. If so, it wouldn't cause any issues because you would just stay in your previous study program then. So for example, if you're missing the language certificate for now and you can already apply, but if you then don't make it, you will be rejected due to missing language certificates, for example, then you can try again next semester, for example. As long as you can re-enroll in your previous study program. Afterwards, not so much. All right. No one else is raising their hand.
Okay, another one. Is the new IT security master already available in the Inferno tool?
Nothing is really available anymore in the Inferno tool. We're still working on the new version called IMAP because we're trolls. I have not updated this system since 1.5 years probably. And no, it's not. It will be included then in the new version, hopefully starting somewhat during the summer term. So at least that's the plan. Let's see how my students are working in the next weeks. No, not them, other students. So at the moment, no, it's not included. But you don't need to submit an exam plan for any of our study programs anymore. Also, probably the most important change in autonomous systems and robotics compared to autonomous systems, no need to submit an examination plan anymore. Due to the change of the structure, because we now force you to take some courses of the mandatory electives, and you can't just take a random bunch of courses anymore as before. Therefore, no such control is required with respect to the courses from different departments. Professor von Strück, as a supervisor, is still offering advisory though. So if you need counseling advisory on your combination, of course, you can still drop by and make an appointment and get his advice actually on the combination. But you don't have to submit any examination plan anymore. And for all other study programs and regulations, no examination plan required anyways. So therefore, they don't have to use Inferno. We know that's nice help, therefore we're still working on the new version. And as soon as this is accessible, it will also include, of course, the new study programs and regulations.
Okay. Is it possible to transfer IKI, which has recently become part of the mandatory in the Bachelor of Science Informatics, to the Master of Science Informatics if you have completed it in the elective area of another master's program?
Yes.
Okay.
So if it suits into one of the areas of the new study program and so on and so forth, so under the commonly given rules, the hindering factor or the blocking stone for the same would be to have conducted this course in a bachelor's program leading to the admission of the master's program. But as long as you've conducted the same in the master's, no problem to transfer it if it suits into the new program.
Okay, is it possible to conduct it in the master anymore?
In the AIML master, it's definitely included. In the others, I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure, but in the AIML, it's actually included in the Foundations of AI area. Because we want to have a lot of students, it's all centered on AI, and if you don't have a mandatory or an introductory course on AI, it might be pain in the ass to study this program. So therefore, this is definitely an exception. I'm not really sure about the others. I highly doubt that it's included in the other master's programs because it's now mandatory in the bachelor's. But I'm not really 100% sure. So it might, in one of the specializations or whatsoever, probably included as well. I highly doubt, but probably. Any other question? Okay, interesting question. So the question is, if I choose to switch the study program, and I decide to not transfer a specific course, module, lecture, whatsoever, am I able to start it from scratch on in the new program? No, because it's exactly the same module and course, and it's only possible if you don't transfer it into the new program. You can't even access it anymore because it's bound to your old program. And in order to be able to retake it in your new program, you have to transfer it. So due to legal and technical issues, it's not possible. If there would be some follow-up course, for example, with a new number, new name, probably whatsoever, but slightly the same, then it would be possible. But I think it's not given, in our department at least. So, but no, you just really have to transfer, including all the failed attempts, in order to finalize it at the end. The answer to this question is yes. Yeah, I know. It's completely fine as long as you send the email prior to switching to the new study program, actually. Right? So it would be the best before registering, but for example, specifically for the language courses, you have to register and then wait for the placement to take place. And only then do you know which course you actually are allowed to take. So therefore, it really makes sense to get in touch with them afterwards, this procedure. As soon as you fixed your combination, finally, for this semester, it might be the generic answer. Right.
If you're still enrolled in your Bachelor of Science and will finish next semester or after the next semester, but are already enrolled in the Master of Science IT Sicherheit over the 160 credits rule, will you still be able to join the German IT Sicherheit Master?
Yes, because you are currently enrolled as a regular student. As long as you finalize your bachelor degree in due time, then you will stay enrolled in the MSc IT Sicherheit because you are already correctly enrolled. But there's no different deadline for the existence of the study program then or whatsoever. It's the same timeline as for each and every student. But yes, sure, you can finalize the old regulation or the old study program then. That's why I recommended to do the same several times last semester. Psst. Any other question? You just have to conduct the online application and get the form for switching the study programs out of it. Provide the same via email. That's essentially it. Okay, the question was, there's only 1 year left to finalize your degree. Does it make sense to switch, essentially? That's the question. Depends. Depends on the credits you're missing, depends on the courses you already conducted, whether they can be transferred to the follow-up study program. So it's not a question I can answer simply with yes or no. In case of autonomous systems, if you have an accepted examination plan you want to stick to, and just only have 1 year, including the thesis, for example, to finalize your degree program, no need to switch, definitely. Right? In that case, I would say stick with your autonomous systems program so far. And only if you run into any issues later on, you have a benefit, a plan B solution to switch in case something happens. Right? But with this timeline, I highly doubt that it makes sense to switch to autonomous systems robotics. If you, for example, want to change your combination and don't want to submit an examination plan mandatory again anymore, or if you really want to take this 5 to 6 credits in the Studiengenerale area, which is not included in the autonomous systems program by now, then it might make sense to switch, right? So it's a very individual decision to be taken here, specifically in your situation, because the study programs are so close to each other. Very few differences, very small differences coming down to CP, for example. So therefore, with a 1 year duration left and an accepted examination plan, I'd rather say stay enrolled. If you have a lot of credits missing, probably switch. What might be different though, the entrance qualifications have slightly changed. So if you have some remedial coursework, imposed conditions, Auflagen still left, it might probably be a good idea to switch, because it might be the case that we can ease the imposed conditions a bit if you switch the study programs. But this has to be checked on an individual base. In that case, send your bachelor transcript to the Beratungs email address again. I will cross-check that and let you know whether it will be possible to drop one of the imposed conditions, for example. Right? But that's probably the only real reason at the moment. Right. If you have any further questions on that, just drop by my consultation hours or make an appointment or so, right? Then we can flip through all the courses you've already taken and the situation a bit better and more detailed. All right. Any other questions? Once again, I didn't get the question. So first of all, if you want to switch the study program, you have to conduct the online application in Tukan. So that's mandatory. If you want to cross-check whether we can ease the imposed conditions or if you're running into any problems when switching or whatsoever, then get in touch with us via email or in my consultation hours in advance to requesting the switch of study programs to make sure that you're actually not doing anything wrong. Right? But yes, everyone who wants to switch a study program has to do the online application. Right. In Tukan, of course, unfortunately. Any other questions? If not, thank you again for your attention. If you have some more specific questions directly after, just drop by. We are going to see about your internal switching form. Right. Enjoy the nice and sunny, not so rainy day today. Tomorrow's a barbecue, right? Well then, just enjoy the weather. Have a nice day. Thanks for your attention again. Bye.
The slides and the video will be available online under the current short link d120.de/po24.